Starting the new year, I think it's good to say that we're gonna work towards getting one or two properties this year. Even one is great. Just main thing is to do it right. Make sure that we're doing it right. Okay. So what do you think will help you get that one property this year? What are some of the things that you want to talk about in the coming weeks? What do you think we need to be able to do or access or whatever it is? I don't know honestly. What kind of obstacles you're feeling like you're seeing? Um, is anybody working on anything right now? Or any questions they wanted to talk about or anything? Any questions in general? Sorry, we just started, so the new year. So I'm working on a power team. Good, feeling good. Like I said, we'll have a meeting till 9:30. Just let's plot out what we want to do this year. We usually get more because we just started. This is the first one for the year. Um, Not sure where we want to go or what we want to do. So let's just throw out some ideas and see what we can do for the coming months. So power team, good, Dylan. That's awesome. Always good. And just to say it in reference to your power team, I think that working on a power team all the time is a good idea. The easiest way, I think, to get your power team in play or to develop that power team, or one of the ways you can approach it is by looking for deals, right? And once you think you got a deal, working with the people or the players involved really drives, the reality of what those people, can do for you if they belong on your team, if you want them there, if you feel like you can gel with them. There's a lot of good people out there. There's a lot of people that would love to get involved and someone who's active. So not something that'll be challenging when you're in the midst of a deal. No, I'm still reading material and familiar with the vocabulary. I think that means right. Unless that was a joke, that's funny. So sure, no problem. That's good. Keep learning, right? Goal might be, this year is to maybe 10 minutes during the day, some time of the day. Earlier is better. Typically, watch something positive, say maybe on YouTube or something from something about mindset is a good activity to do. Even something funny to keep you in the right mindset, to laugh. I think that's awesome. Giving yourself a little something inside your brain to give you a perspective of the day, I think might be positive. Had a meeting with a realtor, property manager, and mortgage broker. However, what I find more challenging is trying to find the deals. Okay, that's good. All right, sure, sure. Now remember, when you're setting out a goal of one property for the next 12 months, one good property, I think that if you're evaluating, even one property a day, you're still looking at 50 times 5, 250 properties evaluated. Even if you're just doing one 5 days a week, um, that's going to get you about 250 different evaluations. Also, what you could do, is to maybe look at the types of properties you're looking for. You might be in a market or an area that's not conducive to a particular type of strategy. I think that uh, you know rehabbing and flipping properties is kind of always out there. Um, there's always that opportunity in markets, even in flat markets, rehabs can work. So if you're finding that you're not finding a ton of deals in a particular area or any deals, it might be the strategy. So you might want to look at trying a different strategy for the area or switch areas, one or the other. I'm looking to do a fix and flip to build some capital this coming summer with some family members. That's awesome, Devin. That's great. That's good. Is there anything I should look out for in particular? No, I would say it's very difficult to tell you, what problems you have before you have them. I think that the main key is to run the numbers, do the due diligence, and make sure that moving into that deal that there's profitability. I've made the mistake before, being excited to get in and not necessarily know exactly what I was going to make, or how much I was going to make, and it doesn't take much. It can easily turn backwards on you. So you want to make sure that you do the work before, because doing the work after it's a higher risk proposition, right? I think the most challenging part for us is not to find the deal, it's how to secure the deal and make the actual deal. The challenge part is how to sell, how to be convincing. Okay, and when you say convincing in the sense of raising capital, is that what you mean? Having people invest with you? Is that right, Rodrigo? Is that what you mean? Both. So when you say selling, you mean selling the property or selling raising capital? You mean both of those? You mean both selling the house and is that what you mean? Because selling the house, I'm looking for a house to flip. I found investors. That's good. So that's awesome, Diana. That's great. Uh, Going back to Rodrigo and Diana, you can expand on that if you'd like. That'd be wonderful. Raising capital, selling the house. So selling the house really is a function of uh, the market itself, right? Whatever the price is, and this is why I believe using a realtor to sell a house is a great idea because they can do that for you. They can take on that responsibility. Raising the capital really is a function of profitability. If there's profit in a deal, typically it's not it's not tough to raise capital when there's money to be given. It might be a question of experience, right? They might maybe be worried about your ability to do it and your experience to do it. So and it's not bad to start with something smaller initially to build up some experience for your investors. Uh, just today, I was watching a video. Somebody has joined the Legacy organization, and he's somebody who has a show on HGTV. I believe it's HGTV. And his name is Tarek Musa. Has anybody heard of Tarek Musa? Him and his wife had a flip property. It's called Flip or Flop. Anybody ever heard of that show? It's really big in the U.S. No? Okay. Well, check it out. It's called Flip or Flop, or it's on HGTV, I believe. Anyways, he something interesting I learned about him today was he pitched his show to do that show with HGTV to other people. And when they got accepted, he hadn't actually flipped the house. I guess the story goes he was in the midst of doing his first flip. He hadn't flipped the house, and they were asking him to do. I think it was 12 shows, maybe 12, maybe plus. I'm not sure, but the idea that he actually didn't have the experience that the show was going to be about. Now I don't know if that was part of the appeal for the TV show or the producers. I don't know, but the story behind that is that even though you don't know everything you need to know, pushing forward I think is important. In that believing that it'll all work out. Now, when I say that, I mean obviously do the work, do the due diligence, do the numbers. Going back to your question of finding or raising capital, it's okay to start with something small to build to something big. I think we overestimate what we can do in the short term and we underestimate what we can do in the long term. So that's why I think focusing on doing one property in the next 12 months is great. If you do more than that, that's awesome. So in the question of finding problems selling the house, I would tell you that let your realtor tell you what it's worth and let the market decide that. That's something kind of out of your hands. In a nominal sense, it could be a little bit more, a little less, but not in anything major. You don't want it to be a surprise. But selling a house relatively, if you're flipping a property, you're doing it in a short time. The market's not going to shift or shouldn't shift too much, right? Which is normal. I mean, something could happen, but it's typically unlikely that you're going to see a major difference in the pricing of that property. So I would let your realtor, Rodrigo, deal with that. On the part of raising capital, due to lack of experience, which is totally realistic, that can happen. I think you start on a smaller project, or you deal with what you have. So if you have investors that can give you smaller amounts or willing to give you smaller amounts, do something smaller. The main thing is to stay active and do it. Even though there might be money involved and there's profits in there, there might be some fear or concern by your investors. Is that what you're finding, Rodrigo? And I don't want to speak for you, so. Okay, so you know what? Start with something smaller. Start with a condo flip, or start with start with a motorhome. Start with something smaller, so you have a little bit of history and something smaller, and maybe something you can do with a little bit, with capital that you do have, or start with something small that you can bring in somebody that's a small risk for them to get you going. I think that might be. On. Can you hear me now? Good. All right. I don't know what happened there. I lost connection too. All right. So, okay. So Rodrigo, does that help at all? Does that maybe give you some steps or direction? Condos are hard because they come with lots of regulations and can really slow down the project. Yeah, they can. It depends. It depends on what you're doing with it. If you're flipping it, which I think condos, can be profitable for a flip, less than ownership and renting it out, just because of some of the variable costs of condo fees or strata fees. So you have to take that into account, definitely. So Diana, you're correct. I mean, there can be some red tape to deal with, but again, right, we factor it in when we do our valuation of the property. But good point. Anybody else? Let me see. Somebody else wants something. Condo, apartment, condo, townhouse. Yeah, I think that smaller projects. I mean, it's easier to raise the capital with smaller projects. It depends on the market you're in. I mean, but if you want to just in your market or the area that you're looking at, kind of focus on the smaller projects and start to build some history that you can bring forward to your investors. I think once people see that you're making money in a particular area, they want it. But they would like to see you do something. So start smaller if you need to. That's okay. If you do a motorhome this year, that's still property. So I think that any deal that makes you a little bit of money in your pocket, I think, is a good deal for you, right? Obviously, we have amounts that we're looking for, but the most important thing is to get into the project and do it, right? And make sure that you are profitable in some form. Oh, good, Devin, that's awesome. I'm doing a motorhome. Good. They can be extremely profitable. Cost of entry is pretty relatively low relative to other properties. There's definitely opportunity in mobile homes and that type of housing. So definitely something that can be a good starting point. I know people in the U.S., friends of mine, that's an area of focus for them, and they're doing very well. So they love them. They're easy to get into, and seems to be a relatively healthy demand for them. Again, run the numbers. If it makes sense, great. But I mean, you could get into that. Devin, what's the cost of the motorhome, if you don't mind me asking? What range are you looking at for this motorhome? Under 50K. Good. All right. Sure. I remember Pip Stelic Someone who's been important to me, a mentor of mine, was doing a mentorship in London, Ontario, and we put in an offer for a motorhome. He was $2,000. So they range all over the place. So um, they can be 2, 10, 15, 20. They're amazing. I mean, some of them are just decked right out. Great places to live. I mean, people like them, and there's definitely some opportunity there. The motorhome itself, not the motorhome, but the parks themselves can be extremely profitable too, because they're just like parking lots, and you're getting paid for people to park their motorhome there, and they pay a monthly fee to supply them with basic essentials. See, I'm looking for ways to increase the room rent, trying to find a way when potential tenants comes in, look at the room, and they think, this price actually matches the quality and services. What would you think I could do? Okay, so that's a great question, Henry. How do I increase value? So one would be, some relatively simple ones you can do. Is internet. Get Wi-Fi for the building. Done that. So everybody can access that. So it includes Wi-Fi. I think is something you can do. You could also do. It's not as big a deal now because everyone's got a cell phone. Is you can put voice over IP, basically a phone line in through the internet, relatively low cost, maybe $50 a year, can get someone a phone line in the house itself. Some people out there offering services over the internet. So if they wanted to, you can include internet, phone, cable. I mean, you could do cable. Those costs, obviously, you have to put those costs in there. But you figure that, if you're trying to increase the value, internet is a huge one. Phone service, not so much now. It's cell phones. Cable could be something. You have to you have to factor in that cost. The room itself, I think that it depends what you're trying to appeal to. I think the most important thing for the room is it's looks clean and safe. It's meets code, and they can, if something goes wrong, they're safe, they feel safe, and it's clean. And you can use basic colors and basic things for that. Another area you can look at is when you're showing these rooms, I don't know if you're doing the furnished or unfurnished, you can have them, set up to show, staging the room to show what it's like, or doing mostly furnished. Okay, then do room staging, right, Henry? That's something you can do. Either hire a stager, do some research on staging, and get the room looking as good as it can possibly look. And staging is extremely effective and increases the value. It's a visual. For a lot of people, surprised at how great the room can look with the right stuff in it. That definitely, I think, would help to increase that value. And very much, rooms are when you're renting out a house or room, first impressions are like for people. I mean, that first impression needs to be recognized as important for the individual when you're bringing them in, right? You don't want to show the room and then go, it's going to look better next time. You'd like it to be as good as it can look the first time to help you out with that first impression, to solidify value for that potential tenant or buyer. Good. Any other questions? Okay. How about would renting room be a good strategy since the turnover rate is very high? I don't know if the turnover rate depends where you are and who you're attracting to that, right, Devin? It depends. I mean, a student might only be there for 8 months with student housing. If it's a professional, they might be there a year or 2 years. Usually professionals know more or less how long they're going to be there for short-term renting. Airbnb is a way to go if you want to, if you're worried about that kind of scenario where I'm worried about the person turning over. Typically, people don't like to move. They move because they have to move, or they feel like they have to move. So if you're tracking somebody who's more nomadic, somebody who moves around a lot, that's kind of their thing. They move from place to place every few months. Definitely not the person you want to track for a long-term rental. That being said, who are you attracting, right, Devin? That might be a question of your marketing or the area that you're marketing in, where the place is. Most people, as a general rule, would like to call a place home for as long as possible, right? Unless they have to leave, which happens, right? Or they feel like they have to leave. They're not being taken care of as a client. Does that make sense, Devin? Good. Good. I'm thinking people would rather rent a bachelor apartment versus a room. I think it's really up to them and what they want or what they can afford at the time. I think you service the place that you have. If there's a need for room rentals, then do it. If there's if selling a bachelor or renting out a bachelor is more conducive to the market you're in, then great. Have you ever done a corp writer's money partner? Corp Withers? Have you ever done a Corp Withers money partner? What do you mean by that? Corp Withers? Withers? Like a corporate, somebody investing, somebody lending or being lent to? Corporate? Is that what you mean? Yeah, yeah. So what are you looking to do? You can write in there, Diana, I'm going to answer Henry's question. The price gap between bachelor's room is quite high. I know some people who rent a room just because it's cheaper. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's what they can afford. I mean, you have to pay that. You have to have housing. So usually factor in your budget based around that. Well, Diana, you want to definitely have a lawyer involved in that transaction and that setup. Do you have somebody right now, Diana, a lawyer, corporate lawyer? Yes, we are in the process of creating it. Okay, with a lawyer, right? Is that what you mean with a lawyer? Okay, good. Then very simple. You tell the lawyer what you want um, and what you're trying to achieve, and they'll set you up with the proper structure and documentation. There has to be contracts and agreements, and you want them to participate to make sure that you're doing it right and that you recognize any exposure that you have and/or the person that you're dealing with. Right? It's not as complicated when you're doing it with a lawyer. Obviously, this is their area of expertise and how they do it. But conceptually, it's not that complicated. But there is documentation that has to be done. There is, you have to protect yourself. So, working with the lawyer is the best advice I can give you is to continue to work with your lawyer so they can structure it based on what you're trying to achieve and what your partner or lender is trying to achieve. Right? That has to be in there too. So, as long as I would say, you work with somebody who's not doing it for the first time, it would be preferable if they had done this several times before with other investors, something, so this is something they've done in the past, so you're not learning as you go. This is not a trial and error kind of thing you want to do, especially when you're dealing with legal counsel, I think. So I would stick to someone who's done it before. So hopefully that's somebody that you're working with, or that type of individual you're working with, Diana. Any other questions? The lawyers and it? No, just the lawyer. The lawyer is who you want to have experience in it, Diana. Just the lawyer. The lawyer needs to have experience in setting that up, right? The people involved don't necessarily have to have experience setting it up or understanding exactly how it works. Really, it's just either this person is partnering up or they're lending you money, and how is ownership or non-ownership and division of profits really gonna be dispersed. Really, is what you're doing. You know, is there security? Is there not security? This is why you want the lawyer to draft the contracts and agreements to make sure that what you think you're getting for both parties. So you don't have to understand it. The lawyer does, though. I would say for sure your lawyer needs to understand it because they're executing the agreement, right? You want them to understand, but you don't have to completely understand it, or neither does the lender, really. But they need to be advised, right? They should get their own lawyer. You know, you should advise them to get their own attorney to review the documentation, for sure, for sure. Does that work for you, Dana? Okay, all right, good. Any other questions? We're almost at 9:30. We'll do a shorter meeting today, but next week we're going to meet at 9 o'clock. Yes, 9 p.m. Eastern, and we'll see if we'll switch the time then to 8:30 when we get the group. I just want everyone to have a chance to be there. This meeting was recorded and will be posted in the next couple of days. We'll continue to do that. Otherwise, is there any questions before we wrap up? Okay, this week I would tell you to make a commitment just to evaluate one or two properties, let's say 2 properties this week, just to look them over. If you're above that right now, if you're doing 1 a day, that's excellent. If you're doing 5 a day, that's excellent. But as a minimum, let's say just 2 properties to evaluate whether they're good or not, and keep the practice and movement forward, okay? Awesome. All right, if you're good, type in yes or Y. My pleasure. My pleasure. Good, good, good. Good. Yes, good. Awesome. Awesome. All right, I'll see you all next week at 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. Eastern. My pleasure. 9 o'clock. And good hunting this week. Write down any questions that come up during the week, and we'll address them on next Wednesday's call. Have a great week.